Hi. Apologies for the absence. I had a little bit of a break because I took a little trip to Japan. It was my first time being back there since studying abroad in Hiroshima when I was in college, but this time I primarily stayed in Tokyo. It was an incredibly special and memorable trip, and I had so much fun. Unfortunately, I get to share it with you. I've never done a travel vlog or anything of the sort, so I apologize that this is definitely not like a professional production or anything, but I hope you enjoy watching. I'm gonna mention a lot of the specific shops I went to, but if you want to see a full haul of everything I bought, all the Rikas and other dolls and clothes, that will be a members exclusive video coming soon. So sign up if you're interested. But I did a lot more than just shop, so let's get into it. Day one was pretty uneventful, if you don't count all the traveling. Including our layover, it came down to a total of about 20 hours just spent getting there. The big one was a 14-hour flight out of Houston that was so deeply unpleasant that it just felt bordered on traumatic. Wicked helped me stay sane through about 3 hours of it, but you don't need to hear all about that. The fun starts when we land, or rather, when we're out of customs. We were both totally wiped from the plane ride though, and arrived in the afternoon, so we took it easy and just settled into our hotel. I did definitely make a beeline for the nearest 7-Eleven to get some bread though, which I will do again, and again, and again. We're staying in the Ginza area, which was super cool. Just so lively and full of so many restaurants. I did go out and walk around and explore a bit before I passed out in bed, but I was so dead tired. The sheer excitement of it all didn't even really set in until the next day. The next morning, I went straight to one of my all-time favorite places in Japan, Mr. Donut, and it was just as incredible as I remembered. Then we went around and explored Ginza. I had a few things on my agenda, but for the most part, it was just walking around and taking in this part of the city. This was my first time in Ginza, and I just love it here. It's so upscale. I don't know, that sounds like such a pretentious way to describe it, but so fashionable. Classy? I don't know, but seeing all the luxury stores and the cafes and the restaurants, the atmosphere was just really incredible. First major stop was this mall that was hosting a pop-up shop for one of my all-time favorite anime in the entire world, Mermaid Melody. It definitely gave, like, a temporary installation, but it was my first ever pop-up event, and I was so lucky and so excited to be able to go. I had to stop myself from just completely raiding the shelves, but I was restrained and sensible and very grateful for the generous exchange rate. Also, God bless the woman at the counter who was very lovely and patient with me as I fumbled through that entire checkout process. Next major stop was this toy store near our hotel called Hakuhinken Toy Park, and it was a lot bigger than I expected. Apparently, it was the largest toy store in Japan at one point, which I did not know. There were like 4-5 floors of just all kinds of toys, blind boxes, character merch. Oh, when I saw the Chikawa section, I knew I was in danger. But again, it was only my first full day here, and I didn't want to go too crazy yet. Also, there was a very disappointing lack of Momonga merchandise in this store. So, then upstairs, there was a pretty sizable Rika-chan section. A really good amount. There were some really cute displays, and some Rikas I had my eyes on. But I also suspected they were being sold for maybe a slight markup, so I wanted to check some other places before I committed to grabbing the ones I wanted. Still, a really cool place, and since it was right next to our hotel, I knew I'd be back, for sure. Then to load up on some essentials for the hotel room, we also went to Don Quixote, which is possibly the most overstimulating store I've ever been to in my entire life. It is really difficult to describe how crazy donkey is unless you've been there. But just imagine a store that sells literally everything. They even had some of the same Sanrio stuff I saw at the toy store earlier, but for like way cheaper. So consider that a tip if you travel here. Let's give it up for the second full day in Japan. Today was a big shopping day in Shibuya, but really more like a recon day, a scouting mission, if you will, just mentally mapping some places to come back to later on. First though, once we touched down in the area, we walked around Meiji Jingu. It was absolutely gorgeous there, so relaxing too. Seeing the gardens and the river and the well was just such a perfect start to the day. The shrine itself was really beautiful too, but I didn't want to record too much in the main area since it is very much considered a sacred place. I did get to see a wedding procession though, which, again, sorry, I didn't want to record that. It was so wonderful though to see this perfectly preserved, natural, and traditional place just tucked away in such a modern metropolitan city. But that's something I adore about Japan in general. After leaving the temple, we stopped by Kittyland, which is a big sort of toy store, maybe more like a character goods store. They had Chikawa stuff, of course. I went right for Momonga. I couldn't wait for him. There was also a little section devoted to magical girls. I did pick up a Cure Idol doll here. A little Blythe section, just a little one. Some pull-ups too, but the one I really wanted was tragically sold out. And some Rikas, a bit of a smaller section than the toy park, but still good options. I think the prices were actually about the same too, so I was wrong about the markup. There was some Sanrio stuff too, but that section was actually surprisingly pretty small. There's plenty of dedicated Sanrio stores around, so not like a disappointment or anything. Lots and lots of Snoopy stuff though. Japan loves Snoopy. After that, we had a reservation at the Q-Pot Cafe. I was really looking forward to this, and it did not disappoint. The food was so cute, so pretty. The whole cafe was honestly the perfect atmosphere, my perfect vibe, just pure pink cuteness. I don't see a lot of people who come by here when they travel, but I definitely recommend it, especially if you're into J-fashion. Q-Pot's kind of a historical brand, and I don't know, I just felt so honored to be there. It helped that the sweets were really, really yummy too. After the cafe, it was time to visit La Forêt, a huge mall with a lot of my favorite brands. Angelic Pretty, Liz Lisa, Nile Perch, and even a small Sailor Moon store. And so many others that I cannot show you because unfortunately filming in La Forêt is strictly forbidden. Some stores may not mind too much, but most are very, very strict about no photos and no filming whatsoever. It was a good time though. I actually got like a little emotional just seeing all these brands I've loved for years and years and getting to shop in person. Such a cool experience. We explored around and went to some other shops in the Harajuku area afterwards. One that specialized in Blythe dolls called Junie Moon, and one for vintage toys called Spiral. But again, absolutely no filming, no photography inside. I did not end up getting anything from either store. Spiral's prices for Barbies, like 90s Barbies, were a little... Well, I understand they're technically imported and probably harder to find than back home, so I won't say they're unreasonable. Just about 4 to 5 times more than what I'd pay for the same things in America. I still think the shop is worth checking out just for its incredible vibes though. Likewise, I'd recommend stopping by Junie Moon just to see the gigantic Blythe doll on display. Okay, it's a little silly, but I was just intimidated. I wanted to buy a Blythe doll, my first one ever, but seeing them in person, I was just like, Now, let me think about this some more, but still happy to visit such a historic, iconic location for doll collectors. And I also think I made the right decision, because by the end of this trip, I would not have had room in my suitcase for a whole Blythe doll. After a detour to Takashita Street, mostly to satisfy my curiosity, because, I don't really like Takashita Street. I know it used to be this huge, iconic hub for J-fashion, but in the last few years, it's just, I don't know, super crowded, super touristy. All the best shops left the area a long time ago, and even when I visited in college, I was like, oh, that's it? So if you want to go shopping for J-fashion, I'd definitely recommend La Ferrée, or even Shibuya 109, over Takashita Street. Then we made our way to the always iconic, always busy Shibuya Scramble Crossing. Actually, it was a little smaller in person than I expected, but we went to the Shibuya Mandarake, which is a used goods retail chain that you will be seeing quite a lot of in this video. The Shibuya one is located in a dark and scary underground cavern, but I was also like really tired and kind of out of it at this point, so I didn't get a lot of footage of this one. Sorry, but this location had some stuff in the way of dolls. Other locations are a little more catered to doll collectors though, which you'll see. But I was wiped out after that, so back to the hotel for now. Before I pass out though, gotta open my gachapons. Time for day 3. I'm solo traveling today while my husband takes care of some other stuff, and the first order of business was checking out the Sanrio store at Nishi Ginza nearby. I got there right as it opened and it was already very packed. It was pretty big too, it took up almost the whole top floor of the mall. They had a really good selection of stuff though, plushies of all sizes, clothes, bags, accessories, even baby stuff. I definitely recommend getting your Sanrio fix here. Then a train ride to the Rika Castle Small Shop, a store here in Tokyo that sells products from Rika Castle. Of course, there was no filming inside, but here's what I bought. I would have loved to have gone to the actual Rika Castle, but it's in the whole other part of the country. Still though, the store was so much bigger than I expected, and it had a ton of dolls to choose from. There were male dolls, Rikas in different skin tones, there were Ginny-sized dolls, lots of clothes. Also, it was pretty busy too. I loved just seeing all the other collectors inside, picking out their dollies and their outfits. I felt so at home here. This is for sure a must-see stop for any doll collector in Japan. Then I went back to the hotel for some more 7-Eleven bread, and then to Akiba. I had a very special appointment there to make my own custom Dolphy dream. This was such an incredible experience. The woman who helped me was so sweet and knowledgeable and is just so excited to help me make the perfect doll. Oh, again, no videos or photos allowed, but they did have some museum displays inside that did allow photos. But I really can't speak highly enough of the staff here. The process itself was pretty simple. You just picked out all the options you wanted out of bodies, head molds, face-ups, eyes, wigs, and clothes, and then they assemble the doll in the store for you. I opted for the Dolphy Dreams Sister Boy Body, which I believe is actually exclusive to this location here in Akiba. But isn't he so cute? Oh my god, he's perfect. I left that store literally just smiling and bouncing. I was so happy. I would have liked to explore Akiba a little more, even just in that same building in Radio Kaikan, because there were a few more doll stores in there, but the box was huge and I felt like an absolute menace carrying it around, so I went back for a nice, surprisingly spicy, incredibly spicy curry dinner. Just another fun doll-filled day down. Day 4, it's another big shopping day. First, we traveled pretty far to, I think it was in the Shinjuku area, but to this little shop called Princess Cafe that was running a pop-up shop for the 2nd anniversary of Street Fighter 6. Obviously, I need to rep my girl Cammy. I really wanted her acrylic standee and my husband wanted Kimberly, but they were blind packaged and we didn't get either one we wanted. Boo. From there, it was off to Nakano Broadway. And if you don't know Nakano Broadway, the best way I know to describe it is like a mall, but also a flea market. But also, there's like 25 luxury wristwatch shops around. But also, a really good amount of anime merchandise and several more mandarake shops that specialize in different things. The top floor was all magical girl merchandise and dolls. Lots of good stuff there. I didn't end up buying any of the Likas or Jennies, but I did buy a Rune Naito doll there. I wanted to record more, but the layout here was like kind of strange, just really cramped, and I didn't want to take up too much space by, waving my phone around. Anyways, rest assured, I did really like browsing here. I probably spent like 1 or 2 hours just on that top floor. I found a few little goodies on the other floors too, but I did tell myself, I made a little promise that I wouldn't load up on little trinkets on this trip. I didn't want to collect a bunch of keychains and buttons that I wouldn't know what to do with, and instead save for bigger, more meaningful purchases. But there were just a few things I couldn't resist. After leaving Nakano Broadway, I decided to head back to Akiba and explore around there a little more, since, I had to leave early the day before. I also really wanted to see Akihabara all lit up at nighttime, so I went to the mandarake located there, too. They also had a floor dedicated to magical girls and dolls, albeit just a little smaller than the one in Nakano. Still, a lot of really great stuff there. Akihabara is a lot of fun, pretty crowded and full of tourist traps, but there's a certain atmosphere, I guess. There literally isn't anywhere else in the world quite like it. It maybe thanks the dozens and dozens of cosplay maids on the street, and I do mean dozens. One of the first to go out of their way to hand me a flyer was actually a male for a cafe where the staff all wear animal ears. So, unsure what that says about my vibes, but anyways, it was a really good time just walking around Akiba. I think if you're unfamiliar with the area and the culture, I would stick to the main streets though. If you know, you know. But another day down, and it was time to head back to the hotel to open my gachas, watch a movie, and pass out. Day 5, we woke up and went to Tokyo Station to get on the Shinkansen bound for Kyoto. My husband secured some tickets to the Nintendo Museum, so we went straight there after dropping off our bags at the hotel. The museum was pretty cool. I am not, a huge Nintendo fan, admittedly. This was my husband's day for sure, but it was still interesting. They had lots of neat displays, including some history from before Nintendo made video games. No photography was allowed at all on that floor though, except for the Switch 2 display. But downstairs there were some interactive exhibits too. Well, more so like mini games, but still fun. This isn't something I would have done on my own, but that's the beauty of traveling with someone special, getting to immerse yourself in their activities too. Our hotel in Kyoto was so great, by the way. First of all, huge, especially by Japanese standards. It was a really old-fashioned building too, except for the bathroom. In true Japanese fashion, the bathroom is absurdly high-tech, and there was literally just a TV in the bathtub. The next day was a full one in Kyoto, and we started out by walking to the Kyoto Pokemon Center. I like Pokemon, but my husband loves Pokemon. We did have to be careful about shopping here though, because we didn't bring our suitcases, just our backpacks. So I had only a few specific Pokemon in mind that I wanted merchandise of. Number 1 was my favorite, Minccino, but Unfortunately, he's not a very sought after one, so I didn't expect to see him. And I didn't. But oh well. Then we went to the Kyoto International Manga Museum. I actually went here last time I was in Japan when we had a few free days in Kyoto, and it was exactly as I remembered, a really pleasant, relaxing place. It's essentially just a gigantic collection of manga with some temporary exhibitions, so it was like so fun and nostalgic to browse the shelves and look for all my old favorites. After that, I really wanted to check out Nijo Castle. Again, something I've always loved about Japan is just how much history there is. Being able to walk the grounds of a castle that existed hundreds of years ago, and it still looked remarkably pretty similar to how it did back then. It really is just kind of awe-inspiring. Sorry, oh my god, I know that sounds so pretentious, but I do mean it. It was really sunny today, which normally would be a good thing, but Japan is a lot like Texas, where the sun can be really, really intense, and it will make a mild day feel like a sweltering one. Some exhaustion from the trip was also catching up with us, so we went back to get out of the sun and took a little nap before dinner. We had reservations that night, but stopped on the way to do a little more shopping. Kyoto is known for its historical district, obviously, but it's got some really cool shopping areas too. My husband made a beeline for the Nintendo store, while I got distracted by another Mandarake that I didn't even know was there. I couldn't linger in here for too long, but I did spot some Precure merchandise that I wanted, so it was just a really lucky side quest. Then, dinner. We had reservations at a teppanyaki place. The meal came out in different courses as the chef cooked it in front of you. Overall, a pretty good experience. I need to admit something here, though. I am not, like, a super adventurous gourmand, which is why you haven't seen a lot of videos of food in this vlog. And not that I'm only eating fast food or anything, it's just nothing that I think would be particularly interesting to anyone. But I enjoyed this meal. It was also my first time trying Kobe beef, and maybe I do get the hype now. My piece of advice, though, if you travel to Japan, don't sleep on the chain restaurants. The local independent places are bountiful and wonderful, and you should absolutely go out of your way to try them. Yes. But if you want a meal that's easy and within your comfort zone, even the chain restaurants are incredible here. I had the best pork cutlet of my entire life at a Koko Ichibanya, and I'm not even exaggerating. I'm still thinking about it. But then we had a nice scenic walk back to the hotel because we're going back to Tokyo tomorrow. Then after getting back to Tokyo and resting up at the hotel some more, it was time for a visit to the Tokyo Skytree because we had another pretty exciting reservation there. First, though, exploring the Solamachi Mall on the lower floors. It was much bigger than I expected, like huge. My husband went right for the Pokemon Center, but it was super crowded in there, so I let him do his thing while I explored some other shops. There was a Sanrio store. Hit that up, of course. Also, this character goods shop that had a big selection of anime and video game merchandise. This ended up being a pretty good stop for magical girl merchandise, actually. Also, a Disney store. Another thing I love about Japan, they fully understand the appeal of a cute mascot. It was really interesting to see the kind of merchandise exclusive to here compared to America. The Japanese Disney stuff definitely veers on the more adorable side, and they also seem to really love a lot of characters that American audiences don't really care about. But I knew I'd see way more Disney stuff later. Anyways, time for our seats at the Kirby Cafe. So again, I have to reiterate that I'm not a huge Nintendo fan, but I do love a theme and a commitment to a theme. Everything here was so cute, and not just photogenic, mind you. It actually tasted pretty good too. Might make a Kirby fan out of me yet. It was pretty late by the time we were done, so it was back to the hotel to open some more gachas and then resting up for tomorrow. The next day, I tried to keep it a little short, averaging about 25,000 steps, often more. It starts to take its toll. There was still some stuff I wanted to see though, so I went out to Yokohama, which was about an hour by train from Ginza. Or it should have been, if my train hadn't gone out of service and put me on a lengthy quest trying to find another line to get me there. But I made it, nonetheless, to the Yokohama Doll Museum, one of the largest collections of dolls in all of Japan. It focuses mainly on the history of dolls, so the permanent collection is a lot of pre-1900s items. Some fashion dolls on display here and there, but mainly very, very old ones. And it was so cool. I've never actually been to a museum that focused primarily on dolls, actually. So again, it was just a pretty special experience to have in Japan. It wasn't very large, but it was still well worth the visit, especially because I got very lucky. One of these special exhibitions at the time focused entirely on products from Magical Girl franchises. If there was ever a museum exhibition just literally made for me, this was it. Again, I feel so lucky I got to see it. Definitely just a memory I'll treasure for a long while. After the museum, I headed back towards Yokohama Station so I could explore one of the adjacent malls, Marui City. I went to that one specifically because it has a dedicated Pretty-Cure store. And although it was predictably kind of small, I was pleasantly surprised to see it really well stocked with merchandise from past seasons as well as the current one. I picked up some keychains of some of my favorite cures because I'm really bad at this whole no spending a lot of money on little trinkets thing. Oh, and one floor down, there was a resale store that had a pretty good amount of Magical Girl merchandise too, but I felt pretty satisfied with what I had, considering my limited suitcase space, so I went ahead and called it there. There was a Dollyteria near the station that I dipped into before heading back to the hotel, but once again, could not record any of that. By the way, another tip from me to you: if you're getting sore and achy from too much activity on a trip to Japan, onsen. Find an onsen. I'm serious, especially if your hotel doesn't have a bath, like mine didn't. My legs were so sore, and my knees were fighting me. So this night, I just went for it, and it was great. Obviously no footage of that part, but I know countries like America are weird about casual nudity and bathhouses, and it can be really daunting and kind of scary, but I promise it will be fine. And also, they are just so great and relaxing, so don't be afraid of public baths. Anyways, we're nearing the end of the trip here, home stretch, but I'm not quite done yet because this next day was a trip to Tokyo DisneySea. And while I'm not a die-hard Disney kind of guy, and definitely not a huge Disney parks enthusiast, there were two very special reasons I had to make time for DisneySea. One, Duffy the Disney Bear. I love the Duffy line. He doesn't really have a presence in America, which I find incredibly tragic, but I've been mildly obsessed with Duffy and his friends since I was younger. DisneySea is the only official place to buy Duffy products in Japan. Plus, get this, we came just in time for Duffy's 20th anniversary celebration. Yet again, I just felt so incredibly lucky. Also, just so excited to know that younger me would be so happy to know I finally got to buy some Duffy plushies from Tokyo DisneySea. The next reason was also crossing something off a list I made when I was like 10 years old. Visiting the Mermaid Lagoon, which is a whole area of the park themed around being underwater. And me, the mermaid-obsessed child that I was, spent hours watching videos and looking at pictures of this place. So it was really, really incredible seeing it in person. I kind of have to commend DisneySea for that in general, really. The theming and the immersion and the decorations are actually amazing, like just really next level. Well, admittedly, I don't have a lot of theme park experience, but like I was impressed. There was, of course, the new Fantasy Springs area too, which was, I mean, it was nice, just as cool as the rest of the park, but also super crowded. Definitely the most congested part, so I didn't want to linger in there a whole lot. DisneySea has a lot of really long lines, like 2 to 3 hours for a single ride. Even some food stands had absurd lines. And we visited on a random weekday in early June, so I literally could not imagine seeing this park in its peak season. And fun fact about me, I hate waiting in lines, so I didn't do a lot of rides, but honestly I was content to just roam the park and take pictures of Lena Bell and Gelatoni. That was already everything I wanted. After getting back to Ginza, I had some incredible ramen, and I got ready for the last few days here in Japan. The next day was also something I was really looking forward to, taking the train to Ikebukuro, specifically an area known as Otome Road. If you don't know, Otome Road is sort of seen like a second, much smaller Akihabara, except specialized in anime and manga aimed at women. So if you want to get merch for like male idols, ikemen, BL, this is your stop. There was another Manzarake here, which had a very small section devoted to dolls, but was otherwise mostly for J-pop boys and BL, which was still very fun to browse, but you know, you guys don't need to see that part. There's a lot of other secondhand shops around here too, and I have to thank Otome Road for being the only place in practically all of Japan where I found merchandise for Tori Himemiya from OnStars. I have no idea why he was so elusive. The animate in Ikebukuro was also very nice. Lots of trinkets. So many trinkets. I broke my no trinkets rule a shamelessly absurd amount of times today. Located right next to Otome Road, though, is a huge, very iconic mall called Sunshine City. A lot of people know this place for being home to the Pokemon Center Mega Tokyo, which is the largest Pokemon Center. As big as it was, though, it was still very sorely lacking in Minchino merchandise. Tisk. This mall is also home to a Sylvanian family shop, which has those amazing, huge display Sylvanians, and a Toys R Us, which was a godsend because they had the JK Ginny doll that I had been looking everywhere for. Oh, and I actually got to catch a boy group performance while I was there too. No photography was allowed, understandably, but shout out to Sad Originals. It was really cool watching you guys. And for dinner that night, my husband got really curious about what Mexican food is like in Japan, because we kept seeing like actually quite a lot of Mexican restaurants around. So we went to one nearby and, well, it is distinctly un-Mexican. I'm not sure how to describe it, actually. It was definitely tasty, though. I don't want to be unreasonable. Obviously, Mexican food is more authentic back in Texas, but it was interesting, and I'm glad I tried it. And the next day brings me to my very last full day here in Japan. Extremely bittersweet. I didn't make any plans for this day, but I ended up going on my own to the Tokyo National Museum. Yesterday was a full day of shopping, and I just wanted to do something, quiet and relaxing. I really enjoyed my time here too. Japan has such a rich and complex history, full of so many incredible art forms that are amazingly well preserved. Some of the artifacts on display here were legitimately breathtaking. It was a spontaneous decision, but I'm really glad I decided to go. It felt like such a perfect way to end my time here, just walking around and appreciating such an expansive history. Except it's not the end just yet. On the way back to the hotel, I got off at Tokyo Station so I could explore Character Street, which is a big underground mall focused on character shops. Lots of different ones, but I was most excited about Prism Stone, which actually had merchandise for Pre-Parta. I don't know if I've ever said this, but Pre-Parta is probably one of, if not actually my all-time favorite anime, The Cashier, and I talked about our favorite characters too, so that was altogether just a really great experience, and definitely the perfect punctuation to a really incredible trip. After dinner, I realized I had a lot of coins left over, so I spent them on more gachapon. I might have overdid it a little, but, you know, when in Rome and all. Thank you, Japan, for blessing me with so many little trinkets. And so, my time in Japan comes to an end. I didn't bother filming anything on the return trip because I was tired and a little sad about leaving, but I promise it was not anything interesting. Overall, I had a great time. I have so many new core memories, so many great experiences, so many great new dolls to take home with me. So, until next time, Japan, hopefully it won't be too long until I see you again.